So we've done quite a few things so far. Let's quickly recap what we've done. I'm going to switch back to a markdown cell and create a heading called recap. So we've imported pandas. We created a data frame. We counted the number of rows and columns in our data frame. And we also displayed the first X rows of our data frame, right? So all of these are pretty useful things to know, especially when you've just imported a data set. You sort of want to do these things as a preliminary step before you start thinking about what sort of research questions you can answer with this data, or if you already have a research question, does this data set even help you answer the research questions, right? Maybe you might find that there's not enough rows for the analysis to be of any substance, right? Maybe there's not enough records or rows in the overall data set for you to uh, come up with any substantial trends, to calculate any substantial trends. So we sort of want to do these things right when we get a data set, and it's very simple to do them. Uh, Pandas makes it quite easy to just use one sort of, word for us to do most of this. So now we're going to move on to our next task. Let's quickly write down what the task is. So over here, if you see, we're given, again, a data frame. This one is for students. Um, and we want to select the name and age of the student, which has a specific ID. In this case, 101. So if we were to look at this table, and as you can see, the student in the first row has an ID of 101. So we only want to print out their name and age. Notice how we're not printing out the student ID associated with this student, right? We only want to print out their name and age. So let's break down what we're going to do. So first of all, we are given a data frame, and we want to filter it by student underscore ID equals 101, right? And lastly, we want to return the columns name and age. So there's sort of three things, or sort of two main things that we're doing in this next task. So let's get started. Um, you know, so, I have this students table already defined here. So maybe I'm going to just, uh, create an addition to this table to make it, match what our example wants. So first we'll create student data, and we open our brackets, close our square brackets. We can open this up to make it more less confusing. First, we pass in our first data for the first row. That's the name, and he has an age, or they have an age of 13. I'm going to copy this over so I don't have to copy paste, write the commas and such. 53, 128, 3. William 10, 6, 11. Okay, so we have our student data. Let's create our students variable. So let me just clear something out. Since we're working in the same notebook where we already have the student's data frame, if I print out the student's data frame right now, it's the old uh, one that we've, saved already, right? But now I'm going to overwrite this with new data. So I'll write pandas dot data frame. For data, we'll pass in student data, and the columns will be, before I finish this cell, let me just open up a new cell right below this. Move it up. Oops. Yeah. And I'll call this student data columns. Calls. Here we have 3 columns: student ID, name, and age. So I'm going to run this first and then pass this variable in inside the data frame. So notice if I run, students at the moment, I'm getting the same old table. But if I overwrite this with a new set of data points, and if I run check what the value is for the students table, it's what we defined above here. So if you're working in the same notebook and you want to ensure that you have both tables, either choose a different name or you can create another notebook, because the variable names are saved throughout the notebook that you're in. Anyway, so now that we have our data frame table, we have to filter it by student ID, where the ID is 101. So the first thing we have to do is we're asked to filter out the student ID by 101, right? For that, we really have to focus in on the student ID column. We have to tell Python to only look at the student ID column. So how do we really do that? So to select a specific column from our data frame, we can run the following. In this case, our data frame is called students. So we write students, open square brackets, and then the name of the column. So if I run this, so this is just a markdown cell, but we really have to just focus in on the student ID column and then only find the value 101. So first I'm going to just, write the column name student ID here so I can focus in on this column. If I run this, I'm only getting, the values that were in student ID. And now with this, if I copy paste this here again, what I want to do is once I've focused in on the student ID column, only select the ID with 101. So remember that 2 equal signs is used to check for equality. It's not, to set things equal to something. It's just to check if, uh, the values that are here, these 4 values match up with whatever we're about to provide here. In this case, 101, right? So if I run this, I get, a table again with 4 rows. Notice how everything is false except for the first one. If we look at the actual data in the first row here or here, right? It is 101. So that's why we were given true and everything else was false. So given the fact that, Python recognized that the student ID, the row where the student ID is 101 is this one, the first one, right? The 0th row. We can use this fact to only print out that row's name and age. So there's a new function we're going to learn about to do this, to locate a specific row given a condition. In this case, student ID equals 101. We will use the dot locate, sorry, there's no A, locate function. Again, this is provided to us by Pandas, right? So if I just run this comment, we're sort of just explaining that there's this new function about to be introduced. So let's just, start using it. So to use it, we're going to, again, use it on the main table. Students, if you look at the actual table, it's this whole table, right? With 4 rows and 3 columns. And we only want to locate, not locate. We only want to locate the row where student ID is 101. So for that, I can just copy this whole statement, paste it here, right? And then I can add a comma. And for the second set of arguments with locate, I can pass in a list where I type in the names of the columns, right, that I want to display. In this case, name and age. Remember to close your square brackets. An easy way to check if, your brackets are matching up is by adding or typing the close bracket sign and then seeing which corresponding open brackets gets highlighted. If I type it again, now we've closed the locate function. Locate is a special thing. By the way, I think I should edit this. It's not parentheses, it's actually square brackets. So this is one of the special ones where we're not using parentheses. So if I run this now, you see how I only get name and age. And the name and age was the row that was returned was the one where the student ID was 101. So there's sort of a lot to unpack here, right? We were given this big function here. Let me turn this into a markdown cell and let's dissect this a little bit. So first of all, let's say, new function dot locate. So the first argument is the condition we want to filter by. You see that the first argument here, the one that's, before the comma, it was what we wanted to filter the whole table students by, right? We want to filter students by. And the second argument is the columns that we want to display. So after the comma is the second set of arguments. Here we're telling this locate function to only show us the name and age columns wherever this row, this condition is satisfied. So, this leads us with the final function, which, we printed here. If I were to, let's say, copy this, paste it here, if I change this and just have name, what do you think would happen? Well, we would only see the name column, right? If I don't have anything, I suppose it would print all three. Yes. So the second set of arguments is really optional. I can write optional here. But it allows us to sort of focus on the actual data that matters. I guess we don't really, find any value with seeing the ID apart from locating the student, of course, but to us, 101 doesn't really mean anything.